So you were never short of some good crime stories as a kid.
No, I grew up on Dirty Harry movies,
Okay.
and my dad he was Harry Callahan. I mean, that's kind of how he was. So definitely
That's
some good
cool.
stories. Yeah. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I was in New York and I just got back down to Florida. So we'll be, and then I'll be back in New York towards the end of the month. So a little bit of back and forth up and down the East Coast.
Nice.
Haven't gotten out west in quite a while. Well, since last summer. So we'll see. Maybe we'll make that happen here in the next couple months.
There you
When
go. If you
cleans
make
up.
it to Colorado, let me know.
Yeah, I will. I've only been to Colorado. I've been there once. We played the Rockies, and I've been there another time. I had to go to a wedding in Aspen, and I totally underestimated the distance. I said, we'll go to Denver and hang out a little bit, and then we'll drive to Aspen. Wow, what a trip!
Yeah, that's a haul. That's
Yeah,
definitely a haul.
I had no idea that it was that much of a haul. I mean, I knew it was a drive, but I didn't know it was going to be like that. So it's, I don't get out there too much, but if I get out there, I'll definitely let you know. I'm just setting this up because I'm going to stream it for us on Facebook.
I saw the promo for it on your Facebook page. So
yeah, and I put 2:00 instead of 2:30. Nice job. But it's all right. We're here. We're going live with this sucker.
Right on. I like your shirt, man. Get your autograph on there.
Yeah. It makes it a lot easier when you have to decide what to wear in the morning. Do I go blue or do I go red, or am I feeling a little bit more wintry and I'll throw on the black?
Right on.
So, but it's all good. But I really appreciate you coming on. I know that you're busy like everybody else, but I started this show because I interview leaders in business and sports and in entertainment. And I've always had an interest personally. I've had a chance to work up close and personal with some of the best in sports, but I love to understand the mindsets and the attitudes and the day-to-day actions, behaviors, and even some of the fears and hesitations that, people that have achieved levels of success deal with. Because, there's a lot of folks on the outside that, or even within your organization that see you as the CEO and it's like you're absolutely perfect and you don't deal with anything. But I like to showcase what it's really like being at the top and what that person really deals with, and again, I've experienced it in sports, and I'm fortunate to coach a lot of CEOs and executives, but I love sharing that. And for you, you have such an interesting background. You talked about your dad being in government and law enforcement, and then you had a history in law enforcement and the military, right?
Yeah. So day after I graduated high school, I joined the Marines. I landed eventually in the Marine Reserves. It was the best thing I could possibly ever do for myself as a high school graduate. My buddies are like, "Hey, what party are you going to tomorrow?" I'm like, "Boot camp."
Oh, boy.
And I'll tell you what, I would, as with the mindset that we have, and I think you and I share a lot of values and direction and things like that together. You were on my podcast and we've talked a lot offline there, but I'll tell you, I would go do that again tomorrow. 3 months of boot camp is it's like this big reset button in your life. I'm like, ooh, that would be fun. But you got to have that like fire in the belly and that desire and drive every day, right?
Yeah, I think what's cool about boot camp, how you're explaining it is, in the sports world, it's similar to like a spring training where, for 8 weeks, really like 10 weeks, that you're in the same spot on the same routine and you're going to be working really hard. But when you come out of that 8 to 10 or 12 weeks, you're going to be much better than you were when you went in.
Oh, totally. It's wild. I was thinking about this the other day, and I know you can totally appreciate this, and I know your listeners can too. But think back to like I closed my office on March 13th. So we had 550 employees, and we just acquired another company this week. So we got closer to 600 employees now. And so we closed the office early March. What if everybody in society said, okay, for the next 6 months, I am going to bust my rear and come out of this being the best human being I possibly can, physically, emotionally, in my relationships, in my business? I mean, wouldn't it be wild if that happened?
Yeah, it would be amazing, right? We may actually say, you know what, I think maybe, every year we should have this, little period of time where we get to lock in and focus. I call it a sprint, right? Where you have that sprinter's mentality and we're going to go hard, right? We're going to go hard for this period of time. Now it's been forced upon us, but wouldn't it be something that maybe we learn from this and we actually plan a sprint?
Yeah, the COVID boot camp, man.
Yeah, COVID boot camp. So you decide to go into the Marine Reserves, and then your journey took you into law enforcement.
Yeah. Is that me ringing? I think it is.
I think it's you.
I'm sorry. Right. I'm sorry.
We keep it super real here. So if you want to,
somebody's FaceTiming me on my computer. It's like, hang on a second. I've never had that happen. That's embarrassing.
No, don't worry about it. I don't edit the show either, so we keep it totally real. See, this is the real things that CEOs deal with.
Do you remember when Adam had his phone? I'm like, where's that coming from?
Did you believe this guy?
All right, so what were we gonna say?
So I'm saying, so you get out of the Marine Reserves and you went into law enforcement.
Yeah, so I mean that's all I knew. So my uncle was a Marine. He was my hero, Kevin. And I looked at him. He was a machine gunner in the Marines, M60 gunner, and I'm like, I want to be like that guy. I mean, he's the kind of guy. I remember him telling this story. He was drinking a beer in this bar, and this guy got kind of sideways with him. He just takes a bite out of the glass, chews up the glass. I'm like, I want to be that guy. And he is such a cool human being, but I always wanted to be like him. So that was kind of one of the impetus for joining the Marines. And then I'm like, hey, I know this law enforcement thing because I grew up hearing about it. So I want to be the best of the best in law enforcement. So I want to be on a SWAT team. So I got into law enforcement. I actually got commissioned when I was 21. Wow. And I'm on the street, I'm one of those street cops where people are like, are you old enough to do this? And
the baby face.
Yeah, totally. And I look back and I'm going, wow, all right, well, it worked. But so I did that, and I got on a SWAT team. I kind of grew up on the SWAT team, and ended up, I was full-time 11 years, and before I went into the private sector. But the, really what I got out of that was just so much growth in leadership. It was fantastic because they focus heavily on building leaders in law enforcement. It is a big part of what you do on a daily basis, and in the military too, by the way.
Yeah, no, I figured. One of the things I was going to ask is, hey, what did you learn specifically, as a Marine or in law enforcement that allowed you to become, a great leader today for really what is a very well-known and iconic real estate brand in ReMax?
I'll tell you what, I actually, so I just got off of Facebook Live a few minutes ago. I was talking about not solving everybody's problems, but instead empowering people to solve their own problems. And ultimately, I think that, that's a big part of what a leader does, is you don't enable people. And sometimes, obviously in law enforcement, you have to go and you've got a volatile situation or whatever, but really your goal is voluntary compliance.
Right.
You want to teach people how to live a good, fulfilled, true life based on the values of our community. We also call those laws, the way that they're written. And they're there for a reason. They're there so we treat each other well, we respect each other's property, and we can all kind of grow ourselves and our families in a fulfilled environment in a healthy, happy manner with, and you look at the wall behind you there with freedom as the basis for that. So really what you learn in not just the military, but in law enforcement is you might go to, anywhere from 6 to 20 or so different situations in a day. And the military does a good job of throwing these different situations at you as well to deal with this super volatile environment. And how do you go from one to another without carrying all the baggage from the last one with you? And this is something that I know you coach on, because you can't have a bad inning and go out and take the field again and go, oh, we have a bad inning going. I mean, you got to like leave that in the dugout, right?
Yeah, every moment has an opening and it has a closing, right? We have to open and close, open and close, open and close. Because yeah, I would imagine, same with law enforcement. If you're bringing, the situation you just handled into your next situation, it could create a lot of trouble.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to have serious emotional strength in order to deal with it. So, you talk about emotional intelligence, understanding other people's feelings and your feelings and controlling your emotions. And you have emotional maturity, which is like choice management, things like that. But I believe there's like this third layer, which is emotional strength, which is your consciousness of how to handle those things. And as a leader, I talked about not solving everybody's problems because we are problem solvers. Leaders are problem solvers, but you can't be the person directly with your fingers in the problem. You've got to be the person strategically helping the resources solve that problem. And then you got to be able to step back and have that disconnect, that closure, like you're talking about, to move on to the next thing. So, I mean, I think really is a deep emotional understanding is what I got out of all those. And that takes time and consciousness and awareness to really develop that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Because you're so right. The typical, high performing, high octane leader, they want to solve their problems and everybody else's. And it's, listen, most leaders are control freaks. We know that. And that's also what makes them great, but it also is what makes them feel like they have the world on top of them, in every moment. It's funny that you said what you said, because before you came on, I was editing a new book that I'm working on. And I was editing the chapter that says empowering team members to be their own CEO. Without, and that's true. We oftentimes do so much enabling.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, when you look at, and I think we have a lot of business leaders, a lot of sports leaders watching this program here. The reality is your job as a leader is to replace yourself.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get this ego where they think they're the best at it, and they may be, but your job, even if you're the best at it, is to make somebody better than you. So when you think about that, and you've been a coach your whole adult life.
Yeah.
So your job and your DNA inherently is to make people better. But as high performers, we're focused more on the performance than on the education a lot of times when it comes to us spreading the wealth. So, I was mentored for a long time by our founder, Dave Liniger, the guy that started ReMax, who's an unbelievable leader. And he told me probably 25 years ago when he started mentoring, he said, one thing I see in you that you need to continue the rest of your life is be a sponge. I go, what's that mean? Learn everything? He goes, learn everything, but give everything. And so many people want to learn it, but they keep it in because they think that if they release it, it's threatening to them because somebody else is going to use it against them. The reality is, if you're out there learning, you should be giving, which is teaching others. So it's so cool to see like high performers out there doing, YPO groups or teaching Little League or helping other business leaders. And you coach a lot of people. So, I mean, it's genetically it's in you. That's what you've done. But a lot of people, they got to break through that.
But I think it's great. I mean, to your point, it's great because a lot of leaders, I think a lot of leaders feel isolated too. And they do keep everything in, where if they take a platform, even, like what you do with your podcast, it gives you a chance to take what you've learned over 5, 10, 20, maybe at some point 50, 60 years, and you can share it. And it's true. I mean, there's nothing better. There's nothing that makes you feel better than helping somebody, right? That's very powerful currency.
Well, when you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, self-actualization is the top of that.
Yeah.
A lot of people never make it there.
Yeah.
But that truly is what it is that love, that unconditional giving back gives you that self-actualization. And however it comes to you and however you can utilize it. But you're absolutely right. I mean, that is the ultimate in fulfillment, is making people amazing and having part in that. I mean, they're gonna have the choice as to whether or not it happens.
So when did you make that choice for yourself? I mean, I know you got that great advice, but when did you say, hey, you know what, I'm going to go from this, this leader that's trying to hold my company together and build my company to something great to, hey, I'm going to give a lot also?
Yeah, I've always had this like helping mindset. I love to help people. In fact, one of the most satisfying days I ever had in law enforcement was the day that I helped two pregnant women, two different occasions, two pregnant women change the flat tires on their cars. And you're like, I mean, I'm not AAA, and it was really insignificant for me, but it made a world of difference for them. And I remember that forever because I love helping people.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why, we do these podcasts, why we do, coaching and masterminds and mentoring and things like that, because ultimately we want to give back. And the best way you can give back is with empowerment and knowledge.
Mm.
And giving them that little bit of inspiration for them to go. And I'm a 2-time college dropout. Okay. I dropped out of college twice. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And then I came back and I got my MBA, and I'm like, well, that was easy, but it took me, 20 years to go do that. But ultimately, other people were sitting there going, I didn't do so well either, but if he can do it, I can do it. And ultimately that's right. You can do it. You just need whatever that thing is that you or I can give them to get them there.
Yeah. Yeah. That little push or that little, click moment that they have for themselves. So for you, how does it work, going from law enforcement into the business world? Did you go right into real estate? Did you ever sell real estate? How the hell did you end up here?
I don't sell houses. I have not. I mean, I've bought and sold a whole bunch of them in my, as a consumer, and my wife is a real estate agent.
Okay.
But that didn't have anything to do with it. Really, I've been an entrepreneur most of my life. When I was in high school, a friend of mine's mom was a ReMax agent. So one of the early days ReMax agents. And I saw that and I'm like, wow, that's a really cool business. And she's like, well, I don't have a boss. I'm my boss. I'm like, oh, I like your attitude. But I saw that, and I had been attached to it since then. But I started an online company in the 90s, late 90s, selling police and government supplies, which you didn't want to sell to the government in the 90s via the internet. They didn't really want to do like online stuff. They wanted a RFP and a purchase order and a paper check.
Old school.
Yeah, it was. I mean, this is the 90s, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
They nobody trusted the internet for transactions at that point. So I made a little money. I'm like, oh, this is more of a pain than the payout. So I shut that down and I started a security consulting company. I was a counterterrorism instructor, homeland security consultant, things like that, because of what I was doing with the SWAT team.
Got it.
And I would go do vulnerability threat assessments for businesses, for shopping malls, schools, churches, things like that. And I was a teacher. I love teaching. I had been teaching police officers since the early 90s about firearms tactics and personal survival. Started teaching sniper schools and SWAT schools. And I taught police academy classes as well. So I thought, why don't I teach people how to stay alive in critical situations? Started teaching that. I pitched ReMax on a program that I created for real estate agent safety, which was, it's general personal safety for people, but I really tied it into building a business as an entrepreneur. That took off. And then Dave called me up one day, our founder, and he's like, hey, why don't you just come work for us full time, shut down your security consulting business, get off the SWAT team. Like, I got the best job in the department. I run the SWAT team. I drive around and go to fun calls all day.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, come do this. This is where you belong. I'm like, okay. So
Adam, how old were you then?
When I left law enforcement?
Yeah. When you made this transition, the leap, as they say.
I was probably 32, 33.
Okay. Got it.
So I'll be 49 next week. So, about 32 or 33.
Cool. So then you go over to ReMax. You're starting this new corporate career, transitioning from being an entrepreneur to now, joining the team, the corporate team, or leaving the SWAT team for another team.
Yeah. So I started as a business consultant. So I came in at basically like an account rep for the franchisees. So ReMax is a franchising company. So we're the franchisor, and then you have the franchisees. So my job was that Zor relationship, go visit the offices, help them understand their challenges and overcome those, anywhere from the financial challenges to the marketing to recruitment and retaining of people, or gaining business, things like that. Then I started, that was in the Mountain States region, Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, the Dakotas. And then I took over as the regional director, then vice president of that region. 2007 hit, and we acquired California and Hawaii, which was its own separate region, from independent franchisors.
Okay.
I went out to run that. That's right as the Great Recession hit, the market fell off the cliff. So that turned into, okay, how do you run a business in extraordinarily challenging times? There was nothing fun about it. 3 years of being, we're in the housing market. So you're on, I don't care what company you're with, you're on the losing team for 3 years.
Yeah.
You couldn't score a point against the competition. and they were just dominating you every single game. And that's what it felt like. So, to throw another sports analogy in there, but, and then I went to Florida, rebuilt franchise sales, became region of the year a few years, and came back to headquarters to run marketing and franchise sales. And then eventually became, that's when I started doing went back for an executive MBA. I needed an MBA because I wanted to get into executive leadership, like C-level leadership. So while I'm senior vice president of marketing, I go get an MBA, go figure who's got the time.
Yeah.
And then I take over as chief operating officer, then co-CEO and CEO.
That's cool. I always love to hear about the journey. Most people, I don't think they really understand how many steps, lie between, you being a high school graduate and where you are now. I'm really big on that because, we saw this a lot in sports, and Derek Jeter used to say this. He goes, you got to respect everybody and treat everybody well, but that doesn't mean you have to treat everybody equally, because, someone that's been in the league for 10, 15, 20 years, they're entitled to certain things that maybe a rookie is not. But a lot of rookies started coming into sports and thinking that they had the same career just because they were at the same, in the same room as royalty like that. But I appreciate you sharing all the steps, to get where you are, because there were a lot of them and a lot of experiences.
Well, it's interesting because when, you might sit in a room with 10 other people and everybody wants the same position that's at the front of the room. But the reality is you don't know what those little bitty things are that the rest of them have been through that you haven't, that gives them an edge on that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you're sitting in that room and you're like, all right, I got it. And then you don't get it. And you're upset at them for some reason, instead of being upset at yourself for not going back and going, all right, I've done all these things. Have I done a talent matrix on myself where I figure out how could I have maximized myself a little bit better in these different areas?
Yeah. And when you do that for yourself, when you look at yourself, what would you say is I call it the it factor. What's the it factor that you bring, or you felt like you brought to the table, to become what you are today? Like, what's your differentiator?
Yeah, I think the first part. Well, let me just do this. Let's point to this up here.
I like that.
Ultimately, it boils down to this. I want to learn every day, and I want to be better every day, and I want to give every day, and I want to be humble every day. So it's not about being great. It's about seeking things that make greatness.
Okay.
And it's all the little parts. And you just, it's okay to rest. It's okay to take a vacation. It's all right to go sit on the beach or whatever. But I don't personally, inside of me, I don't feel like it's okay for me to treat my body or my mind or my relationships or my business poorly by letting off the gas for those. So it's having the humility to recognize, okay, you're getting fat, stop eating this food, or that relationship is not working very well. Put your hat in your hand and go and say, I'm sorry if I said something that didn't work for you or upset you. I sincerely apologize for that. How can we have a greater relationship? And it's all of those things, or even, hey, I think I'm going to watch Netflix tonight instead of read a book.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a combination of a million little things, and you either get death by 1,000 cuts or you grow by 1,000 little boosts of energy that you put into your life.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's really interesting that you're bringing all this up because, I see so many different mindsets as it relates to success, especially, for those that are, let's say a bit younger, that they're working to be successful, and their number one place where they source information on how to be successful is like Instagram or on social. And what the messaging is, there's a lot of like, hey, do this and you'll have your own private plane, or do this and hustle 365, 24/7. When you're sleeping, someone else is working. Like that mentality, I don't believe is what has led you to success.
No, it's not. And you know what? By the way, I sleep really well at night, and I sleep long at night. I'll go to bed at 9 o'clock. I'll get up at 4:30, but I don't miss my wake up and I don't miss my workout.
Yeah.
But I mean, the reality is everybody wants instant gratification. And I mean, you've said it, man. It is that tolerance for boredom and monotony that creates champions, right?
It's a slow burn, right? It is. And listen, I coach people all day, but I fall victim to it at times when I'm looking outside of my scope, right? It's like you got to have your own vision, your own mission, your own goals, and stay true to them, and don't let peripheral things and people accelerate your pace, right?
Yeah,
And
totally. I mean, I think I talked about emotional maturity, which is choice management. And we have, especially kids growing up these days. I've got 3 kids. They're all adults. So 18, 19, and 20. And the reality is their choice management is what makes or breaks them on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis in their grades, in their jobs, in their relationships. It's not, everybody thinks that instant gratification is, you mentioned it, but ultimately, yeah, I found success after 2.5 decades. So it's the long game, the whole concept of, fields of diamonds or 3 feet from gold or whatever it might be, where, don't try and become something, try and become better.
yeah,
And I just, that's what I look at is when I go to the gym, I'm like, I'm not trying to become a bodybuilder. I'm trying to add another 5 pounds. And that's,
and you probably have a strong knowingness after going to the gym for a long time that it's going to take you time to add 5 pounds of lean muscle and lean mass.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's an awareness. It's a huge awareness and a patience that goes with it.
Yeah. How big are you on setting like a vision, like for those 5 pounds, for those things? Hey, I visualize myself as achieving this, and now there's a process for me to get there. Like, are you a vision guy, or are you just a write it down and sculpt a vision? Like, how does, I'd love to know how your brain works, a little bit more in that capacity.
I like having a 1, 3, 5 year, where do I want to be? But more than that, I like to have a 1, 3, 5 day. Where, what do I want to do? I'm a habit guy. Okay. I mean, got it right here, buddy.
I figured. Okay? I love you, man. Thank you.
I'm a habit guy. It isn't that, you know what goals are? Goals are dreams with a number attached is really what they are. I think when it boils down to it, the true champions are the ones who have that first word, habits.
Yeah.
And if you really struggle to put a framework around your life, around your day, and I write my day down every day, and I write, what do I want to accomplish? I wrote what I'm grateful for. I generally have a business idea because I study relentlessly. I'm like, oh, I love that idea. So I type it in my notes, and then I'll go back and I'll shoot a video about it or whatever. And then I'll go share it in a mastermind or somebody I'm coaching or somebody who's coaching me, something like that. But I think it's great to have those long-term goals, But I'll tell you what, so many of them are Pollyanna, and you have very little effect on what happens to get you to that long-term goal, but you have all the effect on what happens today.
Yep.
So
yeah,
that's the way I look at it.
It's almost like if you were to start every day at 0 and say, okay, I'm going to build today. And then tomorrow I'm at 0 again. I'm going to go build today. And it's like, what does building today mean to you? Right? I think that's cool. I like that because, you know, I was talking to a client I work with. He's a multi-billionaire. I said, hey, do you set 5-year goals or 10-year goals? And he goes, I'm lucky if I set 1-month goals. He's like, I just every day go in to win today. I just go to win today. And I believe that's where the discipline comes in, right? And habits take discipline. But it's, you know, I think we're in such a unique state. And I know you spend a lot of time, you know, on your social channels and you put out great content, which I appreciate because it's somebody that goes to work every day still. You're not just a content creator, you run a company. It's very different being a content creator and all you do is create content versus somebody that runs a company that happens to create some content along with it.
Yeah, thank you. But it's funny because I'll tell you, when I started creating content, you know how much pushback I got from people?
Oh, I bet a ton.
People are like, you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
You need to go run a company. I'm like, I'm doing both because these are my ideas that I run the company with. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, why shouldn't I share them with other people that want to run companies? So,
and also, how about I'm thinking about all the people that make up your company. Now they get to access your brain on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. You want to hear something funny though, Dana? And you're right. I push that out. A video I'll put out, I'll put it out over like 5 different places at once. I'll stream it live or whatever. But today, and I do this a lot, I actually was on video like this in a different company that is competitor of ours in the marketplace, talking to some of their people, talking about leadership ideas, because I don't feel threatened by them. I feel that we're in a collaborative environment. And if you look at your industry and say, how do we make the industry better? I'm not threatened by anybody that is a good human being. It's bad people that I'm like, you know what? I keep an eye on you, but ultimately my job is to go out and just be a giver, because givers get, and that's not the end game, but ultimately givers get to give is the satisfaction that I get out of this. And I want to help people. I don't care what company you're with. I mean, these people were with a direct competitor.
Yeah, but because you know what it is, you're focused also not just on building a company, right? At the same time, you're building people. And as a result of building company, building people, you're also building legacy, which is, you know, again, when I work with guys that are in their 60s and 70s and sort of looking back, say, what is it all about for you? And for them, they want to build a legacy for themselves, for their family, for their time that they've spent building, you know, so it's cool. That's what it's about, sharing and growing people. And in turn, you grow yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. Totally agree. And as soon as you start thinking about yourself before others, that's when you're going to stop growing. Really.
You get jammed up. I actually say that's the recipe for depression. When you're spending so much time thinking about you know, that plays tricks on your head. I mean, that's you know, that could get you in some big trouble. I got to ask you this, because, you know, you're obviously in stellar shape and condition mentally and physically. What does a typical day look like for you? You know, you get up at this time, you're in bed at this time, and then how do you structure your day? Because I do want to illustrate that maybe you don't work 24 hours a day.
I absolutely do not work 24 hours a day.
All right. He said it. You heard it out of his mouth.
So I work 25, man. Haven't you figured out where that last one is?
Come on.
No, it's so, okay. Alarm goes off at 4:30 a.m.
4:30.
4:30. Sorry, I sleep in a little bit. Okay. And I don't care what time zone I'm in, it still goes off at 4:30. Okay. So, and last year before, whatever, before COVID, I was traveling 200 to 250 days a year.
Wow. That's
So
amazing.
yeah, my company's in 110 countries.
Okay.
So you got to get out there and be with.
Be a man of the people.
That's it. So wake up at 4:30. I grab my cup of coffee. I watch my video in the morning. I watch Darren Daly, Darren Hardy, great friend of mine, great guy. I'll read, I get some CEO updates from different organizations, different CEO newsletters that show up in your inbox at like 3 a.m. because for some reason all of us wake up early.
It's a special group.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, you could reach out to any CEO at like 4 or 5 a.m. and they'd be like, "Hey, what's up? I'm here."
Yeah.
So we get up at 4:30. I sit down with my cup of coffee. It has like coconut oil in it because it activates the brain. Having a fatty, healthy fat activates your brain and gives you a little bit of energy. My wife wanders out of the bedroom at about 5 a.m. and we're on the road to the gym.
Okay.
We do an hour. And I mean, doing an hour is hit it hard for an hour.
Like a circuit or something?
So no, today was leg day for me. So I did legs, abs, and cardio.
Okay.
So, and I try to do like abs and cardio as much as I possibly can. Abs every day, cardio probably 3 or 4 days a week.
You're headed towards 50, so it's a good time to make sure you get that in.
Yeah, totally. So, so hit that. We agree upon what time we're leaving the gym when we get to the gym. Because she has pretty hardcore workouts. Let me tell you, she's a fitness competitor. So, she's like, all right, I need to do extra cardio. So we're this time today. I'm like, cool, I'm good with it. But we spend minimum an hour, get home, spinach, protein powder, and water is my drink.
Morning
and then
drink.
What's that?
That's your morning drink.
You got it.
Okay.
So, and I love it, by the way. It tastes good because I like the protein powder I put in it. The spinach you can't even taste. Anybody who's like, it's green. Yeah, big deal. But it still tastes good.
Yeah.
So
anyway, just blends right in there.
Totally. So then hit the shower. And by the way, while I'm working out, I listen to podcasts. And if I hear something good, I'll flip over to notes on my phone and I'll take a quick note.
Okay.
It's easy when you're laying on a leg sled to type on your notes or something like that.
Oh yeah.
But, or if you're on the stair machine, I don't run because I have bad knees. I have a fake one and I have one that wants to be.
Okay.
And so I do the stair machine and it keeps my knees in shape, but I can actually type really well on the stair machine.
Oh yeah.
So, so I'll do that, but I'm listening, I'm learning for an hour while I'm at the gym. That's my first learning of the day. I'm home, I eat, shower, and then this is in my basement. I'm in my office right now.
Okay.
So, and then I'm on video. I'm either recording a video or I'm live streaming a video, or because we have a lot of video content that goes out in the mornings at ReMax. So I don't want to interfere with that on the different channels that I'm broadcasting on because people are like, hey, how come you're on 2 channels at once broadcasting right now? And that's not good. So, and then my day starts and I'm militant about my schedule, what I say yes about and what I say no about. I say no to meetings that I don't have the desire to be at because I'm not going to contribute. If somebody's going to give me a heads up on something, give me a heads up, but don't make me sit in a meeting for an hour to hear it.
So what time does your day typically start? Because your work day, it sounds like you're maybe around 8 o'clock right now.
Yeah, between 7:30 and 8. Sometimes it's 7. Sometimes it's 7 if I'm working with the board of directors because they're all early risers. Yeah. So I'll do a 7 a.m. with them, or I'll do 7:30 or 8 with my team. But it starts no later than 8.
Okay.
And then I'll at about 10 o'clock I go upstairs. I have a cup of muscle egg, which egg whites, flavored egg whites.
Yep. In the tub, yeah.
Yeah. And then I'll end up going up for lunch. I just had it. So I eat a healthy lunch. I eat a lot of lean protein and vegetables. That's that's it for me. Tonight, my wife and I we get a cheat meal. So we're like, what do you want? You want to do pizza? Do you want to do like fried chicken? I mean, what do you want to do tonight? But we earned it. So, I mean, she's like militant about measuring her stuff. She does measurements, weight. She wears a Whoop, and
Wow. Okay,
so yeah. I mean, we're intense on manage what you measure and measure every freaking thing you do in your life. So, and then I'll work the rest of the day. If I have slots that I see, like a week ago or whatever, I'll block a lot of time, and that's mind time. That's where I take and I go out and I figure out what do I need to do to impact the company in a positive way. And that's what I fill in those spots with.
Yeah, that's huge. Some of the best CEOs that I work with and have worked with, that was essential. That was an essential part of their success. Time for them and not feeling like they have to fill it or rush it with something else.
It's incredibly important. I mean, this is like a huge golden nugget for the listeners is, I mean, you have to control your schedule. You can't let anybody else control your schedule. And my assistant, I have a personal assistant. I don't take phone calls until they talk to her. And she'll go through my emails every day and say, here are your pending items. Cause I get so many of them.
Yeah. You get bombed.
Exactly. And then she'll say, here's the other ones that you need a heads up on that I got rid of. And because everybody wants to sell you something. I mean, we're a huge company.
Scary.
Yeah. Somehow they get your email address or whatever it is, and that's fine. But I also have valuable customers that reach out and she's like, hey, you need to call, Joe or John or Steve or whoever it is and say hi to them. I'm like, oh, cool. Thanks. And then I also have requests for videos. So I like to send a video greeting instead of just an email or something. So sometimes I'll schedule, we have a very high quality production studio with like a huge, you could do a talk show in there. We do talk shows in there. So I'll go in and I'll shoot some videos from in the studio a couple times a week, probably. And I typically try to end my day. I try to end any meetings by 4.
Okay.
I don't like having a meeting after 4 p.m. because I don't feel like your brain is at the highest function. I think you've
burned it already.
You got it, man.
Yeah.
But, and I do have a mid-afternoon snack that has some carbs and some protein and some fat in it. Drink, this is 40 ounces. I'll drink 3 at least of those a day.
50.
There you go, buddy.
Right there with you. Cheers.
Yeah. But I'll try to, between 4 and 5 is kind of like, all right, what do I want to do next? I plan my next day ahead of time. So I'll have my schedule. I typically plan my week. I'll flip through all the pages in my schedule and I'll be like, okay, here. But at the end of the day, I also go through it and then I'll go have dinner. We'll walk the dogs, spend time with my wife. And if she wants to like watch a program or something like that or whatever, I typically pull out a book.
Okay.
So I've never logged into Netflix. I believe it's a complete waste of time. Nothing against Netflix people, but
it's not for you.
It's not my entertainment. My entertainment's reading or exercising or nature. I like to fly fish. I like to shoot sporting clays. I grew up in the world teaching firearms. So that's kind of an interesting part of my life, marksmanship, competitions, things like that. But I like nature. We live in the woods. I'll take my German Shepherds out in the woods, wander around.
Yeah. You know what I love about everything you're saying is that it's like a clear illustration that yourself and what you need to do to be great. And you're not influenced by really too many external parties as to what you should be doing, or, you've taken on this title now, Adam, of CEO. Now this is how you're going to act and behave. And these are, you know what I mean? Which I think is what allows you to stand out and be great at what you do.
Well, thank you. And I'll tell you what, it's a struggle when you get a lot going on. Obviously we live in a very, a world where you can receive an overwhelming amount of information, pushback. What are the things that stop people from making decisions and doing their job the way that they should? Fear and overwhelm.
Yeah.
You just got to have that fortitude mentally to say, I have clarity. I have clarity, and I'm aligned with my values and my direction in life, and nothing's going to stop me.
I love that. I think, when you lead with character and your values, you can't ever go wrong. I mean, that's a superpower in itself, because how many people today, and, not that this is a political show by any means, but you see a lot of leaders, they just adapt to the social, what's going on socially. And they say, now I'm this, but it's like, well, who are you? Like, what do you stand for? And I think that's important. You got to know who you are and what you stand for, and not be swayed.
Well, and here's the reality. Kindness wins. Yeah. It's, I don't believe in somebody trying to put me in a polarizing decision, because that's really what, a lot of people want a polarity out of you. And if you're not willing to give a polarity, then they don't like you. But the reality is, you need to have, you're right. You need to be you, and you need to know where your heart is and really stick to it and be a good human being. And if we all thought that, I don't think we'd have any of the challenges that we deal with. People are like, do you wear a mask or do you not wear a mask? Or what, you know what? If it makes you feel better, I'll wear a mask. But I'll tell you, I'm working on my immune system at 4:30 in the morning. So
you're a builder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but I believe other people have feelings that you need to respect.
Yeah.
And that's and maybe that's why I loved being a cop. I didn't really have these problems and every now and then you have people who just freaking hate you. But I'm like, I love your passion. And they're like, what? I just called you a name. I'm like, yeah, I love your passion for me. So thank you. And they're like,
what confused. Did you just say? Yeah.
But the reality is that's what it is. It's passion.
Yeah.
So how do we harness our passion to take care of each other is the big question here.
Yeah. Well, I think, for you, you have that mentality, but first you also realize that, you got to put your own mask on first. Right. And that's what it sounds like. You do a great job of, hey, I take care of me early, and then I got a lot to give everybody else throughout the rest of my day, which is cool. And what I appreciate about you is that you lived a life in many ways that I preach to a lot of CEOs and executives, where it's, hey, you have to, this physical body of yours, when you get that right, it's amazing what it does for this too. And how less reactive you are, your decision-making is better, you're clear, and I can't understand how so many people don't get that part, right? I ate a healthy lunch instead of going out and having, a big appetizer and a big meal and wine and everything else. And then what about from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock where you still have to perform?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you look at right now, the time right now. So it's 1:18 p.m. here. It's 3:18 p.m. there. So how many people right now that are watching this are like, I'm struggling to stay awake. I have no energy, because you just ate like a loaf of bread for lunch.
Yep. And
you overcarbed, and your hormones are out of balance, and you're dehydrated, and you didn't sleep. I mean, you went to bed last night, but you didn't really get sleep or rest. Things like that. I mean, I'll tell you what, and before I figured this out, how you balance your mind, body, business. And by the way, I have a video I put out like once a week called MBB, Mind, Body, Business.
I'm going to write that down. I'm actively learning MBB.
Awesome. Yeah. So mind, body, business. So I take a theme each week, and I talk about, how does this theme affect your mind, your body, and your business? And what do I always put a little challenge in it for your body. Like, if it's focus, okay, I want to see you take a picture of yourself or a video, #AC challenge, and plank for a minute and stay focused, whatever it might be. But it's just to remind people that, success doesn't come from focusing on business. It really doesn't. Everybody thinks it does. Everybody's like, I'm going to go out and be a kick butt entrepreneur, and I'm going to set the world on fire, and I'm going to do great, whatever it is. And you're like, well, wait a second. How are you? How are you? Can you climb up the steps without getting winded? What does your doctor tell you when you go in for a physical? Are they, oh, you're average for your age? I mean, come on. I don't want to be average for 49. I want him to go, you're like a 22-year-old athlete, is what I want him to tell me. And that's what I get to hear. When I go in, I'm like, what do I need, doc? He's like, you're good. So it's, that's how you have to look at, if you're a business leader, you gotta harness your mind, your body in order to even walk in the door of your business. And people are like, dude, you're way over the top on this, but I call BS.
I don't think you are. I mean, think about it, right? Before a professional athlete takes the field, or court, which is their place of business, they've gotten to the park at 1 or 2 o'clock. That's 5 to 6 hours prior to their actual performance. Now in business, it's a little bit different, but you're saying, hey, I'm taking a couple hours in the morning to get myself ready to play the game of business, which is the most competitive game in the world at the highest possible level. Who doesn't have 3 hours to feel great? You go into every day feeling great. If your competition goes into the day not feeling great, you've already beat them.
You're 100% right. The, like Jim Rohn has always said, it's like personal development. I view body, relationship, finance, personal development as really these key things that you need to invest in. And you notice I didn't say business yet, because you got to, I believe, and I probably invest 10% of my income in my health. I mean, I believe that much in it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's super important between your vitamins, your nutrition. We have a lady that does meal prep for us, and she's a nutritionist.
Okay.
And people are like, you're way over the top now, dude. But I'll tell you what, I just got back. I don't have to cook my dinners because we have meal prep done. And it's actually cheaper to do this. And you know how much food I throw away? I waste practically no food out of my house. How much does the average person waste in America?
Yeah, good point.
When it comes to food waste, they probably waste, somewhere between 15 and 30 pounds of food a month.
Wow.
When they're throwing things away that go bad or whatever. So I have somebody do meal prep. She's a nutritionist. She follows, my wife puts together the menu because it's based on her dietary needs. I have a little bit more of a leeway with my metabolism than she does with hers. But I'll tell you, it's getting all this right. And we invest a significant amount in our health. We invest in our relationships. We plan vacations. We plan time off. We plan things together. And we plan things with our kids as well. They're all at college now, but we're like, okay, block these dates.
Yeah.
Okay. And they know what it's for. It's family time. And how do I take care of my mind? I plan that. I invest so many thousands of dollars a year in coaching. You got to pay for a coach, bottom line. Okay. I've got a couple in all reality.
Yeah.
You have to pay for a mastermind. Masterminds are not free. You got to pay to play.
Yep.
And mentor. The good part is those are free for all you people who want free stuff. Okay. But I'll tell you what you pay for, you should see a return from.
Yeah. I always think you got to buy yourself in at the table. So like you said, hey, you got to buy these things are important. I allocate funding. You're investing yourself. So you're going to get a return. I mean, provided you make the right choice in personnel, which that's what you do, you're going to get that return.
Yeah. And you know what happens to people who don't invest? They don't, I mean,
they digress.
Yeah. Well, here's the reality. If you don't pay, you don't pay attention.
It's true.
I mean, if you don't pay, and you're probably losing people right now over this.
That's all right. That's all right. We didn't want them anyway.
That's right. You're
They'll
inspirational
come back at
underachievers.
some point. They'll come back
But
at some point.
but the reality is, if you don't pay, you don't pay attention. And it's an investment, and there is a return on it. The challenge is, how do you measure it and how quick is it? But don't focus on that. Focus on what you give into it, not what you're getting out of it.
Yeah. Which is the work, right? Which is doing the work.
Yeah. And love it. You can say this sucks. And Dana, you've seen people that show up and they're kicking rocks and they're like, this sucks and blah, blah. You're like, you're absolutely right. And the next person shows up doing the same thing and they're like, I love this. And you're like, you're right.
Yeah.
You get what you make out of it.
It's true. What do you think allows you to bring so much passion and enthusiasm just to your life? What would you say? Is it just something that comes innate to you, or did you have a couple of perspective shifts in your life that got you here?
No, I'll tell you, I'll be the first one to say I've been depressed. Okay. I mean, it's natural. Totally. You're going to be down on yourself. Yep. I've been burnt out a couple times. I can tell you exactly when I've been burned out in life. Doesn't matter, but the reality is I recognize those, and I'm like, how did I keep my job at that point? I mean, and a lot of it has to do with the multiple stresses that go on, and you're not managing holistically what you're going through. But I've faced it all. Okay. And I'll tell you, I have seen things in life that a lot of people don't ever want to see or be part of, because I swore to go do those things and rescue people and be part of that stuff. Mm. So some of the worst things you can possibly be part of in life, I've been there. And I'm not proud of it, but I have a high level of, and this is the important part, self-awareness. Yeah. And you just got to be freaking honest with yourself. Don't judge, just notice, just be a witness to where you're at and where you need to go. Yeah, that's hard for people. That one part, I think a lot of people struggle with. They would rather sort of mask themselves in their own lies. Where if you get honest with yourself, that's when your life changes. Yeah, but it's freeing. You're right. Your life totally changes. It's like, I've heard it a couple times. I mean, what is the most vulnerable thing you can possibly do is go stand naked in front of the mirror and jump up and down. And if that doesn't get you in the gym, I don't know what will. Yeah. It's call it what it is. And I'm not body shaming anybody. I'm just saying, look, I've been there. I mean, but I've decided not to be there. It's a conscious decision. And it's never too late to get yourself going. I think there's, again, you deal with people, you come across people at all different walks of life. Hey, they feel like some of their best days have passed them. And it's like, no, man, they're right here, right now. You could decide today to be great and do it again tomorrow and the next day. You're right. And I'll add this, you're going to have setbacks. It's not an upward trajectory. I could get fired tomorrow. I could be out of work. You know what I would do? I would go out and I'd be like, great, I'm going to go be better than I was yesterday. Or you can go and you can sulk about it. Yeah. But the reality is you're going to have ebbs and flows, like your health. Go have surgery and then watch what happens to your super fit body after you've had surgery. You're like, where did it go? Yeah. Changes. And yeah, I mean, it's just because you got to go get it back and you got to go earn. It's harder to earn back the next time. Yeah. So because you have this expectation you're going to get there quick, but you won't. You're not looking back at the thousands of hours that you put in to get to where you are, where you feel awesome in your business, your relationships, your life, whatever. I'll tell you, probably one of the easiest things to fix is a relationship. Why? Because an apology can be given and a conversation can be had. And I'm not saying that it's okay for people to wrong each other and then just blatantly forgive it. But I mean, forgiveness is a big part of life, but also awareness goes with forgiveness. So, but the reality is if you're not going to go re-enter a relationship, stop dwelling on it, move on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
I
get
like
over
it.
it.
Yeah, I like it. It's just, again, you're addressing things. I believe is another differentiator that you have. Like everything you're talking about is, it feeds right into a philosophy that I talk about is playing offense. You're fat. You don't feel good about yourself. Change it. Or this relationship's not working, fix it or get out of it. Do, do the work,
Yeah. You don't
but
like how much money you're making?
go
Do
make
something
more.
about it. Because
Yeah.
nobody's stuck. I mean, I get calls every day from people like, hey man, I've been in this job for 25 years. Um, what can I do? Can you hire me? I'm like, I'm not going to hire you. I go, you can go out and you can make something. What have you been working on the last 25 years? Well, I'm really good at this. I'm like, market yourself that way,
Yeah.
but be the best. Or if you don't like where you're at and what you're doing, like you said, and I'm going to say Coach Dana said this, change it.
Change it. That's it. Yeah. It's that quick. Change it. People could do it. Well, listen, I got to ask you this. This is my last question for you for the day. I always ask everybody this. I call it the Becoming a Champion show because I feel like every day we're becoming, more and more, we're becoming a champion, right? In our own way. And I always ask, what does the word champion mean to you?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Champion for me. Champion for me means never settle.
Hmm. I
Means
like that.
never settle. And I'll tell you what, that I was asked a question on another interview and I gave the same answer. What advice would you give your 18-year-old self? And it's the same thing, never settle. But that's what a champion is. Don't strive for excellence, strive for elite. And elite is when you're excellent and you keep going.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, that's people settle when they get somewhere.
Yeah.
You gotta stay hungry, man.
Yeah, stay hungry. I like that. I like that. Never settle. And I think when you couple that with a lot of the lessons that you gave today, it allows you to never settle, but also keep working hard and going after something without burning yourself out, without trying to do too much, without going against your own values, without, making those mistakes that are unnecessary if you just plan.
Yeah, you touched on something there. Working hard and being diligent and staying after something does not necessarily lead to burnout. I mean, if you enjoy what you're doing, you're going to crave more of it instead of resist it.
Yeah.
So it's, you look at what causes burnout. Overwhelm causes burnout. You convincing yourself that this sucks causes burnout. And it's a choice. We might have somebody, maybe your boss is a complete jerk to you. Go find a different boss. Or maybe you're the problem that caused that relationship to go sideways. Or maybe you're operating at a substandard level that they expect more from. Who knows? I mean, I'm quick to say if there's a problem, the first thing I do before I go and I look for the cause of that problem is I hold up the mirror and figure out if it's right here.
Yeah.
So
Most of the times it is.
yeah, really. I mean, it's everybody's down on me. Well, wait a second. Did you have part of that?
Yeah.
So
But again, that's your self-awareness, right? You have the ability to look at yourself and say, hey, it's me. Most people, again, they don't do that. They say it's everybody else. It's how much I'm getting paid. It's my boss. It's this, it's the environment. It's COVID. It's all this crap. And that's all it is crap. And you know what? When you focus on crap, you become a big pile of it. You know that?
there's
That's
your next t-shirt, man.
that's the truth. But Adam, hey man, I love our time together. So thank you for hanging with me today. I know that there's probably still a few more things left on your to-do list. So we got to get you out there attacking it.
Thanks, my friend. It's great to see you again. And to everybody out there, be safe, be well, and be strong.
Thank you.